Well, the transgender executive order was just one of a dozen high-profile and symbolic changes that the new President Joe Biden passed on his very first day in office. But I want to go deep on one of the themes of Joe Biden's first day. Of course, you know he banned the Keystone XL pipeline, or at least said he would revoke the permit for it. Whether or not that will actually take effect, I don't know. I learned that TransCanada, or TC, has actually shut down construction on the pipeline, so they're taking it seriously. But there's many other things there, including about fracking and drilling. Joining us now via Skype is our friend Marc Morano, boss of ClimateDepot.com. Marc, how you doing down there? The golden age of Trump is over with a disappointing first day of Biden, isn't it?
The expected and disappointing first day of Biden. And yes, the golden age of Trump is over. Now it's, this is an assault that's going to well exceed anything President Obama did in 8 years, what the Biden-Harris administration is going to do. We are in it, we are under it, and we are going to be crushed in America in terms of our energy and energy regulations.
You know, I just don't get it. I mean, you and I have been talking about energy and the environment and pipelines and global warming for years. And it was rather miraculous when last year, or just over a year ago, the United States went from the world's largest importer of energy to breaking even, the world's largest producer of energy, and now it's actually a net exporter. This was unthinkable just a decade ago. I remember when I wrote my book, Ethical Oil, The Case for Canada's Oil Sands, the whole premise was, let's displace OPEC conflict oil imports. Well, now, America, through fracking largely, but other things too, is so strong. Why would Joe Biden want to kneecap really one of the two most important industries in America? I would call tech and the other important industry, but energy, fracking, pipelines, oil, that is the backbone of the recovery. Why would Biden want to undo that?
Well, two words: climate emergency. Sure. But actually, let me take a moment there. You said the American exports for the first time over imports. We are not only energy independent, we're energy dominant in the United States, and Donald Trump helped accelerate that for the first time since Harry S. Truman was president in 1952. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about how unprecedented this is. 1952 was the last time. So Biden is literally going to come in and take this all away. Now, keep in mind, President Trump's strategy was unique among Republicans. This was a blue-collar, middle-class, Rust Belt state strategy that was going to basically tell the workers and the residents of these people, these states, that they were not only going to get cheap, affordable energy, but they were going to have expanded job opportunities, and America was going to be dominant. And it actually came true. Of course, COVID upended all that at the time. But interestingly enough, Joe Biden looks at what the legacy that Trump left on energy, and he sees nothing but a horror show. And his first and pretty much number one task domestically is going to be to just shut down every accomplishment that we've achieved on energy independence over the last 10 years, including what Obama couldn't shut down. These were trends Obama couldn't even stifle, like the fracking revolution.
You know, I know who would be cheering for this: alternative sources of oil production. So that would be mainly OPEC countries, because shutting down Keystone XL cuts off almost 1 million barrels a day that would come from Canada, which I regard as ethical oil. Shutting down fracking, closing off the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, other things like that, would shut off American ethical oil. So who's left? Mexico is a declining producer. So you got Venezuela, you got Iran, you've got, really a lot of the bad guys in the world are in OPEC. Qatar, Russia's not in OPEC, but it's a major oil producer. So is that a reason? I know why they would be cheering. They would be cheering because you're taking American and Canadian production off the table. That means America's going to be buying more OPEC oil at higher prices because there's going to be less production, supply and demand. So I get why the bad guys would cheer this. But other than the insane ideologues, why would any American cheer this? I mean, even if you don't like oil and gas, surely you got to see there's jobs and tax revenues and balance of payments issues here too.
It's a great question. I mean, I think it's an ideological grip that they actually believe. and arrogance too. They want to come in and transform everything, and they believe they can be in charge and they can set it out on paper through bureaucracy. We're gonna have Biden, the Treasury Department, not lending to fossil fuel companies. We're gonna have the Education Department getting new grants. Every agency is gonna be involved with teachers so they can indoctrinate kids. You're gonna have Interior, EPA, State Department, Defense Department. Every department now is going to be all in on Biden's strategy. Now, interestingly enough, it's even worse than you laid out there, Ezra, because if you look at people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they'll say, like, most of the wars in America have been fought over energy supplies, over supplies for, coal or oil, and this is why we have to get off fossil fuels. Well, that's theoretically a reason if you can't do it domestically. We proved we could do it domestically, as you said, ethical oil. We don't rely on conflict energy. The other problem, and here's the shocker, which I think people don't realize, is if we actually go more solar, wind, and electric cars, which is the way we're being mandated in the United States now, what does that mean? We are swapping not only energy independence, but energy dominance for what? For getting rid of plentiful energy, for higher energy costs, and for energy rationing and blackouts. But the main thing is we are swapping it for mineral rare earth dependence on China and Russia, with companies operated in Africa that have human rights violations that make Amnesty International in horror. So we are getting rid of our dominance and energy independence, and we're swapping it for dependence on China and Russia for rare earth minerals and mining. So it is just unbelievable. And then here's the topper. The cherry on the top of all that is John Kerry, the new climate envoy, claims that climate change is a national security risk that will lead to more wars, as they're taking policies that will guarantee more endless wars in the Middle East and other places over conflict of energy, as we hamstring our own domestic energy and then rely on mining and other energy for the new mandates for solar, wind, and electric cars. Mind-boggling.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.